Hello everyone, and welcome to the Week 9 video review. This week's theme is officiating the unusual, and so I have a series of clips that show some atypical and unusual situations that don't happen very often in our games. Let's take a look at the clips. Our first clip focuses on Rule 712, false starts, specifically the false start of the second kind. Here we have the offensive team shifting out of their huddle and into formation. However, the highlighted offensive lineman is slow to get set, and as a result, once he finally puts his hand on the ground, he is not set for one full second prior to the ball being snapped. This is an illegal shift that converts to a dead ball foul. Remember, when in doubt, shut these plays down. This is a nice example of dead ball officiating by this crew. Our next clip highlights Rule 715, defensive team requirements at the snap. Here we have a defensive team player jump into the neutral zone at the snap. And although it is very slight, video shows that the defender clearly contacts the helmet of the snapper in doing so. We've all heard the phrase, get the obvious, when it comes to calling plays. This is an example of an obvious foul that must be called. In addition to calling the obvious dead ball contact, make note that we should not penalize the offensive receiver for a false start. The dead ball offside with contact is what created the chain reaction that caused the offensive players to jump. This next play focuses on Rule 7-3-10, ineligible receivers downfield. Remember that anytime we have a broken play or a rollout and we have a passer scrambling in the backfield, we need to have a heightened awareness of ineligible receivers downfield. Remember that this is a foul if the receiver is more than 3 yards or has been more than 3 yards beyond the neutral zone at the time that the legal forward pass is thrown. All season long, we've talked about the importance of opening up our field of vision and seeing the big picture. Remember that any time a player tackles or runs into a receiver when a forward pass is obviously not catchable, it should be a personal foul. This is an example of such contact that should be ruled a personal foul. We can see from replay that this pass is clearly not catchable. And additionally, the defender only wants to unload a hit on the opponent. This should be ruled a personal foul. Here we get another type of contact that should be ruled a personal foul. You'll see we get a receiver that runs an in route across the field and is blindsided by a linebacker. Now remember that by rule, a blindside block is an open field block against an opponent that is initiated from outside the opponent's field of vision, in a manner that the opponent cannot reasonably defend himself against the block. This type of hit meets all the requirements for a blindside block, and although we don't often think of a defender hitting an offensive player as a blindside hit, you are supported by rule calling this a blindside block. Our next play is a punt play that goes awry. You'll see that after the snap is muffed by the punter, in an attempt to save yardage while being tackled, the punter throws the ball forward and into a crowd of players. When we watch from the end zone view, we see that all of the players in the vicinity of the legal forward pass are ineligible, either by position or number. The 3 blocking backs are all ineligible because none of them are wearing numbers other than 50 through 79. The only other player in the vicinity, number 35, was originally a numbering exception, as he was on the line of scrimmage between other players when the ball was legally snapped. By rule, we should have an intentional grounding on this play. Now this is a very unusual and atypical play, in which we have all sorts of layers that need to be peeled back in order to get it right. Remember that on any kick play, we need to know our eligible numbers. If we have a play similar to this, knowing which players are eligible will help us get it right. Additionally, on these plays, you may not have a lot of information to bring, but remember that you need to bring any information that you have, as that may be the missing piece of the puzzle that will help us get the correct enforcement. Our last clip highlights both mechanics and play calling. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see two offensive players run a crossing route, in which one of them falls to the ground in an attempt to make a catch. Now focus on this play on not what happens to the offensive player, but the action by the defensive player. Nowhere in this play does the defender commit an obvious intent to impede the offensive player from catching this pass. Instead, the offensive player goes to the ground simply because of tangled feet. This is not pass interference, so the crew does have a correct ruling on this play. However, when we focus on the mechanics and the optics of this play, we realize that we have a line judge running up the field signaling catch by giving the catch signal. From the end zone view, you'll see that the back judge is giving an incomplete pass signal. This highlights the importance of our signals and the tools that they are for communication. Remember that we want to reserve the catch signal only for sideline or end line catches, to signal that the player was in bounds when possession was maintained. Remember that the catch signal should only be used for boundary line plays, as using it in the field of play will only create situations in which we have conflicting signals, which ultimately causes the crew to lose credibility. That's all for this week's video review. Go out and have a great week 10.